I am Michael Santos with Prison Professors, and thank you again for paying attention to our Earning Freedom Journal. This is a really important project to me. I record a new one of these videos every single day with hopes of teaching and inspiring more people who are going into the prison system or people who are already in prison system. As somebody who went through 26 years in that journey, I feel as if I have a duty and a responsibility to teach those people how to become stronger, how to figure out ways to motivate themselves and stay filled with energy even as they are climbing through struggle. And I never ask anybody to do anything that I am not doing. These are the lessons that I learned from leaders, and this project of creating these daily journals was really part of the fuel that kept me going while I was in there. You see, when we're pursuing a pathway to success, we need a strategy, and that strategy becomes a part of our game plan. We use the tactics to convert our high-level plan into a reality that all of us want to experience on the other side of the journey. The tactics give us a very clear guidance on what we must do every single day to move closer to the success as we have defined success, and we don't all define it in the same way. Regardless of the challenges that we are facing, the tactics at the beginning of our plan will evolve as we progress. I can tell you that the things that I was doing at the beginning of my prison sentence were very different from what I was doing after I had multiple decades of imprisonment behind me. Every day we should be pursuing tactics that align with the strategy that we are striving to build, to execute on. Now, that's what we're talking about today in this journal entry, is defining tactics. For me, one of the tactics that was very important was reading deliberately. You see, deliberate reading would become a tactic that I could use to grow stronger. In the previous video, I spoke about how the library included books from many different genres. There were westerns, there were romance novels, there were stacks of these books by Daniel Steele, and thrillers by James Patterson, and horror books by Stephen King. And those fictional books really serve a purpose of entertaining a person. And we can learn lessons from the stories in those books, and they can actually help us. But since I define success as being able to emerge from prison strong, with my dignity intact, I wanted to read books that would teach me how to grow, teach me how to communicate better, teach me how to think differently, teach me how to grow stronger mentally, spiritually, intellectually, in every possible way. Now, when I was in jail, waiting to transfer to prison, I grew stronger by reading the story about Socrates, which I described on the first day of this journal. I could identify with Socrates because of his imprisonment. And I wanted to find and read books that would really teach me the tactics of other people that went through prison and emerged successfully, or also from business leaders. And on one of the bookshelves in the library, I spoke about this yesterday, I remember finding the autobiography of Malcolm X. It was written by Aldous Haley, and more than 20 years had passed since the book came out when I finally found it. But at the beginning, I didn't know anything about Malcolm X. Now he's a pretty well-known figure because of that movie that Spike Lee put out, and because of the more attention that we have been receiving on the incredible accomplishments of Black people. And the autobiography of Malcolm X is an incredibly inspiring story for anybody. Now, when I heard that he served time in prison and that he had transformed his life from inside of a jail cell, I knew that that was somebody that I could learn from. When I read books, I would frequently come across words that I didn't understand. And this is what led me to another tactic, a tactic that I learned by reading that book, that biography of Malcolm X. Sometimes I could decipher the meaning and context of the word. Other times I just skipped over the words that I didn't understand. But when I read Malcolm's biography, I learned his tactic. When he found a word that he didn't understand, he would write the word down, he would look it up in a dictionary, he would figure out a way to use that word in this sentence, and that is what empowered him to become one of the world's greatest communicators. That book really inspired me to work toward building my vocabulary. Since I aspired to become a better communicator, I thought about how I could use words as tools that would help me reach my end. Like a carpenter needs tools to become a more efficient builder, a communicator needs to develop a more robust vocabulary to become more persuasive and to get things moving in his direction. So learning more words became one of the tactics that was really important to me. I believed that by building my vocabulary, I would in time be able to create more opportunities. So I had to learn how to define words. I had to learn how to use those words in sentences. And the tactic would be an invaluable resource to me as I grew through this journey. So my question for somebody going in is, what tactics have you created to overcome your challenge? If you added 500 words to your vocabulary, how would that tactic influence your prospects for success? What steps could you take to add 500 words to your vocabulary? What influence does language have on your ability to open opportunities? And what tactics can you pursue to become a more persuasive communicator? If those are important tools for you, think about how you can use these tactics as part of your strategy to emerge successfully. When I was in prison, I remember reading this story about how many words are in the English language. And when I read that story, I remember that I was a little bit surprised to hear that there were 1 million words in the English language, roughly 1 million words. But of those 1 million words, I heard that some more research that I did by reading, I learned that of those 1 million words, an educated person, somebody who uses words as part of their career, say a lawyer, a journalist, a writer, a teacher, what do you think that person has in their vocabulary? I was really blown away to learn that an educated person only has a spoken vocabulary of about 3,000 or 4,000 words out of 1 million words. And what's even more important, I think, is that somebody who has a basic level of English speaking, somebody with, say, a 9th or a 10th grade education, only uses about 1,500 words in the spoken vocabulary. So the difference between 1,500 words and 3,000 words is not that big of a gap. So if you could learn 500 more words, just think how much more powerful you can become as a communicator. There were so many tactics that really helped me through the journey, but as I have expressed before, the two fundamental tactics that helped me all the way through was, number one, focus on developing my strong communication skills, and number two, figuring out how am I going to develop stronger critical thinking skills, because that's something we all need, whether we are in prison or whether we're in society. As I'm filming this video right now, and this video is part of the journal that I'm going to be releasing in 2021, we're in the midst of a global pandemic. There are 50 million people unemployed, 50 million people that are looking for new ways to create resources. I can assure you that somebody who learns how to develop strong communication skills and somebody who has really outstanding critical thinking skills knows how to assess information, figure out a plan, architect a strategy of what they're going to do, and all of those skills work together to give a person more confidence that that person can create opportunities out of nothing, that person can figure out a way to adjust or pivot if things aren't going well for them. Certainly, as somebody who went through 26 years in prison, I had to do that numerous times. But nothing helped me more than having strong critical thinking skills, a willingness to prepare to build a good vocabulary, and more than anything, to have an insane work ethic, to be willing to do whatever it took to grow stronger, even though I may not realize the outward rewards until I get out of prison, and in my case, 26 years would have to pass before that day, magical day would come. And it was a magical day. But more importantly, the life I experienced since I got out of prison, the opportunities that I opened, the income that I was able to earn, the businesses that I was able to build, the life I was able to create with my wife, all of that is something that very few people would think are possible for somebody who served 26 years in prison. But I was inspired by people like Malcolm X, people like Nelson Mandela, who went through this struggle and found the strength within to create a life of meaning, relevance, and contribution. That's what I wish for you. I do hope that you will start by contributing to the Prison Professors community by subscribing to this video. Leave a comment below. There's a whole series of video links below that tell my story of going through 26 years in prison. They lead you to the Prison Professors website if you want to take a look at our store and see how you can teach and inspire more people. They show how I launched businesses just after I got out of prison. And one of the businesses that I hope you will support is cbdtv.com. There's a link in the show notes below. If you use CBD, I do hope that you will visit cbdtv.com so that you can support our sponsors. They provide the resources that we need to continue growing this effort of striving to be the change that I want to see in the world. I am Michael Sanchez with Prison Professors. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so now. Thank you so much for being a part of our community.